few of us are just going to say a couple of words, but I know time is ticking on, no, we want at a break. But I'd just like to say that film was made by all local people, so someone filmed it, someone edited it, Anne's husband was a voiceover, you know, just lots of people contributing in different ways, so just like to thank them all for that. And I was just thinking about what Marguerite was saying about, you know, place is the solution. That is what we absolutely believe about the Meadow out there, is this is a solution to a lot of problems we have in our area. And having a place where we can create a childhood, a space where people can feel safe and can know their community is just of the most importance. And we are, at the moment, I don't know how many of you know, but there's a planning application being put in to build housing on the land. And so we are, historically, you know, there's been quite a long campaign to save the land from development, North Kelvin Meadow and the Children's Wood. So if any of you would like to write an objection letter to Glasgow City Council, we have some, and there'll be some out in the Meadow. And we've got like notes on how to do that if you want to support that. And we're going to put in our own planning application, because we believe if we put it over to the council are not wanting to support what we're doing as a community, and we believe that the community ourselves managing and looking after the space will be a much more creative solution than someone coming in and doing things to us. So at the moment people can build tree houses and plan things, and there's a lot of creativity, and we just fear that if it becomes a park, a formal park or garden, it might end up losing that sort of community aspect. So we're putting in an application just asking to keep the land as wild as possible, but with a few enhancements so that it can impact all of the community, so that we can have a community. We're thinking about doing a community cafe that will connect older people, people who maybe have mobility issues, who can come onto the land and do other activities. So the way we've been working over the last few years is to get children on the land, because through children you can get aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, and it's a really great way to connect everybody together. So everybody knows a child in their life, or you know, a friend has a child. So that's the way we've been working. So over the last, you sort of got a sense of roughly some of the community there. But really it's taken quite a few years of people bucking the trend. So in 2008, an individual in our community went round the houses to find out who wants this land built on, because the council had come in, done no community consultation, and decided let's build in this space. We need the money. And so this individual went round, did some surveys, and found out that over 90% didn't want the land built on. And so we've done subsequent 2 studies, one with Glasgow University, which showed that over 3,000 people surveyed did not, over 90% who responded didn't want the land built on. So it took that initial person he got the support of people, and then started growing things and putting in some raised beds. And from there it was a very informal group of gardeners and dog walkers. But we really felt that we wanted to do more for the community and build more community in the area. And so it's taken a whole load of people in the area to do sort of grassroots activities to connect people. So we've spent a lot of time getting children outside. As I said, this is our way to make change. But it's taken a lot from a lot of people who've put in a lot of effort. And maybe, you know, what we saw there is that's a process of a lot of work from a lot of people. So you've got the early adopters like Rika over here, and Anne and Steve up the back, who from the very, very start have been supporting children getting outside. And now to move from those individuals doing a lot of work to more of the community taking ownership. The way we've sort of done that is through playgroups, outdoor learning clubs and events every week, to try and get people, look, this is your space, come and use it, look, isn't it fabulous? And just to show them the possibilities, to try and get people motivated, and then they can, then what we've seen now is you've got lots of motivated people who do their own things. So we've got, you know, someone just who does a free cycle event. We basically bring stuff and take stuff. It's a free, you know, lots of people have items they don't want anymore, so we do like an exchange. So she came up with that idea. Someone else, Rika's doing a food gala. Lena organised a fairy, pixie and elf festival. 10 people run an outdoor learning club, and we've got Jim, who's not here today, but he's emptied the bins for 8 years every day. Just come and empty the bins and take them away, and you know, without people like him, the community wouldn't function. So there's lots of people doing lots of different things in many different ways. The way, other things that we've sort of, our approach to building the community more recently was maybe doing quite a lot of things but not to 100%, so that, you know, we could do more but maybe not worry, you know, about absolutely perfection, and just to say, look, you can do it, come on, and those kind of things, and just to make mistakes and just learn from, you know, things don't always go according to plan, and just working quite flexibly with the community. We work together and things evolve and change as time goes on, and that's where we've got to this point where finally we feel a planning application is the right thing for our community to do, but it wouldn't have been maybe 4 years ago or 5 years ago. So I don't want to say too much more, but there's a few other people who might say a few words. Niamh, I think, will come and say something. Niamh's from Glasgow University, so we've been collaborating on research. So you're going to say a few words.
So I'm Niamh, I featured in the video looking incredibly sincere. I didn't know I had that sincere face within me, but yeah, you see it in the film, you do. Kind of like my new Finnish friend, because I think we all become friends at these events. I could talk all morning about the ways that I think we've benefited from working with the Children's Wood, but I'm going to try and keep it short. The Children's Wood always talks about that they are in collaboration with about 14 educational institutions in walking distance, and I keep coming and saying you are in collaboration with 15 educational institutions within walking distance.
Or 16, this one as well.
And this one as well. So Glasgow University is right on the doorstep also of the Children's Wood. And essentially how it started is I came to the Children's Wood with a problem that I had. I work in Glasgow University and I have a developmental psychology background. And part of the issue that I have is students who want to work with me on their research always want to work within developmental psychology, and they see developmental psychology as childhood. They don't see it as lifespan. So they come to me all excited, what am I going to get to do with kids? And I'm going, where am I going to get all of these kids? Where is it that I'm going to resource all these people? But I also am quite passionate about the idea that when we're looking at the Children's Wood and the benefits that it has for children, we're talking about things like exploration, experimentation, active learning, engagement, passion, excitement, creativity. I want that for my big kids. I want my researchers, my adult students to come, get excited, get passionate, get engaged, feel that they can make a difference. And this is what allowed the collaboration between the Children's Wood and my students, because they came, they didn't have canned data that they were being handed about what children did on a memory test or an attention span test. They worked with real kids in real situations who didn't do what they wanted them to do all of the time, who didn't sit perfectly while they were doing memory tests, who got distracted, did all of these kind of things. And I came out with coming with a simple problem that I wanted these students to have access to proper research, real life problems, societal input. And I got students who were engaged, who were passionate, who now go around the university saying, I want to do a postgrad in this, I want to go on to do this, I know I can make a change, who are volunteering, who are doing all of these kind of things. But more than that, I also brought university students into schools and surrounding areas from areas of deprivation. So we have young children from areas of deprivation working with students who are in university. Now we know from our widening participation initiatives in universities that one of the most effective ways we can help widening participation is to give very young children at primary level exposure to people who get to university, to tell them that there isn't one path, one story of how you get there and what it's about. So we had that as a natural conversation going on between these young adults and these children at the same time. The university is, I work for a network called the Scottish Network for Able Pupils. And it's very much thinking, how do we ensure that children in schools are getting the challenge that they need in a very inclusive way? So all children in the classroom, what would be inclusive ways you could provide challenge? And we have recently been promoting the educational resources that have been developed by the Children's Wood freely by volunteers that are on the table at the back across Scotland, with teachers saying, these are fantastic ways to take all the subjects that you do in school, cross-curriculum for excellence, and bring them out into the outdoors for children. So this little space is having an influence across Scotland by modelling practice, by developing initiatives, and it's changing the lives of my students, for which I'm very grateful. It's also getting me very good positive evaluations from my students, so that's also good.
Have you wrote objection letters?
And they have them all writing objection letters as well. So again, I could tell you 100 ways in which this has been beneficial when I wanted to solve one small problem, but I really believe that small initiatives like these can do great things. Thanks.
Thanks, Niamh. Hi, I'm Anna Cook, and I'm from the Education Committee that Niamh just talked about, and I'm just really going to talk very briefly about these resources that Niamh just mentioned. Just to tell you a little bit about us, the Education Committee is just a team of volunteers. We're all teachers or work in educational establishments, many of us locally or sort of live locally to the area, and importantly we're all just passionate about outdoor learning, getting children outdoors, and about trying to sort of inspire and encourage schools and teachers just to be a bit more confident in either coming to this space here, this wild green space, because as we've heard, there's lots of educational establishments in the area that can walk here. But if they're not able to do that, many we know do come from further afield to access it, but if they're not able to do that, we're working to try and encourage them to use their own outdoor spaces, so trying to support them to get as much benefit as they can from their own playgrounds, their own spaces, and to try and help them to sort of overcome any barriers that they might have to that. So we've heard about the educational establishments that are local to this area, and there's a team of volunteers that have been working with these local schools to deliver outdoor learning activities at the Wood here throughout the whole academic year. Schools come, you saw a lot of it in the video there, some of that was from the launch event of this resource pack. Schools come and take part in activities here that we host, as I say, to try and give a space to those schools to use, but to try and inspire the teachers and give them confidence to use their own space as well, and just generally to engage with that sort of outdoor learning process. So the first of these packs that we used, that we developed, was from, you saw Tam speaking in the video there, and this came from, obviously we know the Commonwealth Games happened in Glasgow last year, and as part of that there was the Glasgow 2014 cultural programme which was built up around that, and Tam Dean Byrne went on a marathon storytelling challenge all around Scotland, where he was reading the books of Julia Donaldson and going to lots of schools and working with lots of children all around Scotland. And so we sort of took a bit of a lead from that and used Julia Donaldson's books, which are obviously very familiar to lots of schools and children in the area, and we used them to create a whole host of resources, all focused on outdoor learning. So we kind of used a variety of her books, and then we've got things like, you know, in the book Superworm, we've got activities about building a wormery outdoors, or going on a mini beast hunt. There's orienteering activities linked to Stickman. You saw Tam in his costume there. This has recently been released to schools, and as Niamh said, there was an event recently at the university where there were lots of teachers there, and they seemed to be really sort of interested and keen. That it seems to be the sort of message that we're getting is that lots of teachers and people working in education are keen to have resources to help them with getting outdoors and working and sort of supporting their outdoor education goals in their own schools. Obviously these events, these resources that we've produced are all linked in with the Scottish curriculum, linked in with Curriculum for Excellence. They're all hitting lots of experiences and outcomes across a range of levels, from early through to second level, and covering a number of curricular areas. So there's expressive arts activities in there, there's numeracy, literacy, science activities. And more recently, our work in progress, which is soon to be launched, and there's some of these on the table up at the back, we've created a sort of annual overview of resources, which is linked, deliberately linked to lots of community events that go on in the Wood throughout the year. So linked into all sorts of activities for Halloween and the Elf, Pixie and Fairy Festival that Emily mentioned, Christmas time. So we've tried to kind of tie it in with things that we know that schools will be doing already and topics that they might be doing already. And really, as I say, we're hoping to just inspire schools and teachers to spend more time learning out in that natural environment, aim to make that learning more accessible for all of them, and to do that we've made sure that the resources are all freely available to anybody via our website. They can email us and we can send a PDF of these. We know that, as we've heard this morning, that the Children's Wood here the way it's positioned, that the educational establishments around about us cater for children and young people from a variety of backgrounds. And as we've heard this morning, throughout the whole morning, we know that this sort of engagement with outdoor learning and with the outdoors and with the community can span those social and economic divisions that we've talked about and help to build up the communities and make them stronger. And we just really hope that these resources that the committee have been working and producing can increase this equality of access to the outdoors.
And I'm one of the volunteers at the Outdoor Learning Club. How would I explain this? What happens on a Saturday morning? It's basically like almost like a kind of a youth club kind of thing, but it's not really, because the parents all sort of stay there as well. It's a lot of what we do is trying to challenge what the kind of problems that Marguerite was talking about earlier, about people not getting out. And being stuck in the front of screens or whatever. So what we do is based on forest schools. The volunteers who run it mostly have done some forest school training. We're not fully qualified yet, but what it is, when you go in there, you don't actually go with. It's not like you're bringing in a great deal of materials in. What you're doing is you're using the actual woodland as your kind of playground, your play area. We'll do things like we'll put up ropes so that kids can play on, or we'll then maybe do some working with clay. We will also do things like we'll be making bow and arrows and stuff like that. But a lot of what's going on there is that they will do things like they'll be using tools, for instance, which is kind of unusual because a lot of them will be like it's even to quite a very young age. The other principle behind it is that it's child-led and intrinsically motivated, which means that the children come in and it's not really about anything other than the children playing for playing's sake. And they're not doing it almost as a kind of motivated to do other things. We feel that there's a number of things that happen this way. It builds confidence because the children are learning to do things. Although there is parental supervision, the children are kind of learning to do things by themselves. They're given more freedom. It's more free range, I suppose, than it would be even in a kind of, say, a park. Although some of the parks here are very nice, there is a kind of sense that there are certain things you're allowed to do and things you're not allowed to do. So we feel that they also allows them to do problem solving, because they're doing things like using tools, and one of the things that I remember one of the tutors told us about when we were doing the forest school training was, he said, for instance, you don't help children to climb trees, because they will only climb so far as they can actually manage, and you don't actually push them into a risky situation. So it'll be a lot of that's about kind of just they're learning how to manage risk, and we feel that also builds up sort of resilience, self-esteem. Again, sort of that kind of business of like having to make decisions for themselves, and it's just a whole series of things. That's it really.
I've been volunteering with the community events for the last 3 years. We organized our first event in May 2012, and after that we've organized over 60 events. They've all been themed in some way, a lot of them linked to the books by Julia Donaldson. And they basically are free and available to all people from the neighborhood and beyond. And they really actually have brought people and the community get together